Hello, welcome back, friends. This is another Sunday where I'll be recording my sermon. I've sort of phased out of recording the services. There's been a lot on my plate. As you know, or as you might know, I am now a 3/4 time pastor, as going to be as of July 1st. I'll be serving Potsdam and Grace United Methodist in Messina and Hogansburg. So all three United Methodist churches, I will have to serve Hogansburg on Saturday. They sort of got the short end of the stick, sadly. Grace Church was one of the churches I was first appointed to when I got back to this area, so I really found that it wasn't quite fair to change their time since I was first appointed there. And Potsdam United Methodist also is an appointment that is a half-time appointment, and we kept the service at 11 there. So Hogansburg will be on Saturdays at 10:30. So if you're in the area and want to stop by to see just a fellowship, to see the service, to be with the people, please come see us. I forget exactly the name of the road, but if you Google Hogansburg United Methodist, you'll be able to find us. And Grace United Methodist is just off Route 37C, and Potsdam United Methodist is on Main Street. So I will be at many places. Feel free to stop by. Again, Hogansburg Church on Saturdays at 10:30, or Grace United Methodist at 9, or Potsdam at 11. And those two will be on Sundays. So it's been a busy season. It's very hard for me to continue to film and to post when there are two services going on a Sunday. I've been doing Grace United Methodist and scooting over to Hogansburg for the past 2 months, I guess it has been. So it's very hard to record and post. So we've sort of entered a phase where I am sort of discerning about what sermons I put online. If I think that the sermons are very focused on my congregations and don't need to be put online, I tend not to. If it's a sermon I think other people might like to hear and won't be too focused onto a specific congregation, I will put it online. I'd say there'll be sermons maybe 2 to 3 times a month. It depends on how busy I am as a 3/4 time pastor. I'll be half-time at Potsdam and 1/4 time at Grace, and Hogansburg will be kind of part of that 1/4 time at Grace. So feel free to stop by anytime and see any of the churches there. We'd love to see you. With that, the readings for today were sorrowful in some ways, but really beautiful readings. Our beautiful cover photo, I have a hobby of photography, and it's really fun to put some of my photos on the front of bulletins. But our readings were from 2 Corinthians 8, 7 through 15, and that has the, the saying, the one who had much did not have too much, and the one who had little did not have too little. And that's reminding us to be fair, especially Christians, to be fair when dealing with others, that we want to, if we're speaking big talk there, that we should have to put some action behind it and know that that action goes towards making things more balanced with other people. So if we're going to say that we should help the poor, we should find ways to help the poor and then actually do it so they can be benefited, and vice versa. If we are in trouble, someone else to say, hey, I have a way to help you, and be able to do that. So, and in the end, the fair balance that they talk about in here is making sure that the one who had much did not have too much, and the one who had little did not have too little. So it's something to aspire to. I think that these words are definitely something that we should continue to strive for. I do not think we haven't reached that ideal yet. But our 2 Samuel reading was David's lamentation over the death of Saul and Saul's son Jonathan. And this is an excerpt from the Song of the Bow, I believe, and it might actually be the full Song of the Bow. So it's like a psalm, it is very sad. It really, I encourage you to read it. 2 Samuel 17 through 27. 2 Samuel 1, 17 through 27. It's beautiful. And even the troubled relationship that David and Saul had, David had a good way of remembering Saul and Jonathan. So, and then the third reading was from Mark 5, 21 to 43. And that's the story of the hemorrhaging woman being healed by touching Jesus' cloak, and Jairus' daughter being raised from the dead. So, two unique miracles. So with that, I've already used up some time. I'm going to get right into my sermon here. So before we get into the Mark passage, which is what I'll be preaching from, I just want to acknowledge again that 2 Samuel passage. I know that for us Christians, Psalms tend to be the part of the Old Testament we like to read the most. It relates to us in ways that maybe some other parts of the Old Testament don't. Psalms are very visceral and very emotional, and we tend to say that we can feel them. When we read them, we can feel them. They're in song format. They're psalm and song, basically the same word, and they're meant to be sort of felt as well as read. And this passage, it will make you tear up when you read it, when you hear David talking about the Lamentations and how Israel is slain on the countryside. It is very hard to read. I like that even though David and Saul had an interesting relationship, they, I think the term is called frenemies. David really recognizes Saul and his death in a really beautiful way. And I think that's something that we can strive towards. Even if we are remembering someone that wasn't our most favorite person when they were alive, it is really important to honor them in death. And I think David does an excellent job with that. So I encourage you to look through the books of the Old Testament. Don't just skim to Psalms and and Job and Proverbs. Actually look at 2 Kings and 2 Samuel, and look at some other books in there, and besides Isaiah too. But you'll find these nuggets of beauty in there. So as a reminder, we're going to look at the Mark passage. That is Jairus' daughter being healed from the dead and the healing of the hemorrhaging woman. And some context leading up to these passages. This is Mark 5, so there's some time that passed beforehand, and Jesus was busy out healing for the past however many months. So he'd been doing miracles for a long time before these miracles. And that's sort of why in the passage you find that Jesus is constantly surrounded by people, because he has quite a following by this point. They know that he does miracles. So they weren't necessarily questioning his ability to do miracles, but they wanted to see him do it. So I kind of am reminded of like a magic trick show where the man in the top hat and the white gloves says he's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And so everyone is watching, and they're not watching to see if he's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. We kind of know that he's going to do that. He's announced that he's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. But we're seeing, how is he going to pull it? Is he really going to do it? I know he's done it before. I've seen him do it before, but how is he going to pull a rabbit out of the hat? We're watching for that how. And that's sort of what Jesus is like here. Unlike the magician, Jesus is actually performing miracles, not just a trick. But miracles are hard to talk about. I know that many of us believe in them. In fact, many of us proclaim that we believe in miracles. We've heard about Jesus' miracles our entire life. So from changing the water into wine, to walking on water, to just healing multitudes of people here, feeding multitudes of people, healing plenty of people, and raising other people from the dead. There's been a couple of cases of that in the New Testament and in the Old Testament. And the biggest miracle, Jesus himself raising from the dead. So Jesus is kind of known for his miracles. That's what sticks in our brain. So Jesus tells us why he does miracles. In John 4:48, he says, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you will never believe." And even after seeing the miracles, the crowds may be closer to believing that Jesus was who he said he was. But there were so many miracles performed. So just over and over, every time Jesus would perform a miracle, he'd say, "Believe." He'd do something amazing, and he'd say, "Believe." And then he'd do another miracle and say, "Believe." So you ask again, what exactly are miracles? There's something that's unexplained, something that's beyond just wonderful. It's miraculous. It's something that we don't quite know how they work. What are they? I think that they are a glimpse of the future. They're a form of fulfillment. I think that it's some form of demonstration, as is said in the John 4 passage. And also, it's a reality. It's a already, but not yet. It's a glimpse of the kingdom that is yet to come, but it's also already here. If you've listened to my sermons before, you'll know that I harp on that a lot. Christ said at one of the many feedings, he actually fed multitudes of people a couple of times, but he says, "Truly I tell you, you are looking for me, not because you saw signs, but because you had the loaves and had your fill." So basically saying that you're not looking for the signs and wonders just for that. You're looking for the signs and wonders because it benefits you. And Jesus told Jairus, "Do not be afraid, only believe." Jesus performs miracles for our sake. And the miracles don't always cause us to have faith so much as our need for miracles helps us pursue the miracle. It is a really powerful thing to read the faith story, like the woman who was healed from her hemorrhaging. I am a little sad that she doesn't have a name, but she was confident in Jesus' ability to heal, and she needed a miracle. And it was her faith that healed her, because she believed, but also because she was at the right place at the right time. She was in the crowd, right by the physical embodiment of Christ. It was not because she prayed and prayed and prayed for a miracle that she got a miracle, though that could be part of it. It was that she had faith and she had the means for receiving that miracle. She witnessed an early glimpse of what it will be like when God's kingdom is on earth forever. And Jairus too had faith. Jesus reminded him to have faith, even after hope was reasonably gone. The servants came and told him, "Don't bother the teacher, that your daughter is dead." But the daughter was healed. And again, this is not exactly through what we call fervent prayer. The family and friends laughed at Jesus. And then we read in verse 40 that they mocked. That this is something like, "Oh, he doesn't even know that the child is dead." But perhaps to Jesus, he was the part of the living God, this death is not actually death. Perhaps he really does see this death as just sleeping. But Jairus and the family were there at the right place, at the right time, and their lives are forever changed. So I want us to recognize that they just weren't in the right place at the right time, and we aren't, that we are in the right place at the right time as well. God put us here at this right place at this right time. It won't look the same as the people that we see in the Bible, in this part of history, in this part of the story. So we can pray and pray for a miracle, and maybe it won't happen in the way that we desperately ask God for it to happen. Our bodies wear out. We are made to be mortal. It doesn't make it any easier to spend the rest of your time on this earth. But even the most faithful people struggle with heartbreak, struggle with loss. Even the most prayed for people still pass away. And that's because that's what we're made to do. And we don't have answers as to why, but we can point to a glimpse of that truth in the miracles we read about. And we say, we don't really know fully yet, but we know that Jairus and his daughter have a glimpse of what that's like. Or say, I don't know how to hold on to my faith when my whole world has been turned upside down. But it looks something like Peter and the disciples after Jesus is raised from the dead. If Jesus can raise Jairus' daughter after the family laughed at Jesus, then no one is beyond the love of Christ. It may not look like resurrection. It may not look like a miraculous healing. And often it really doesn't. But we know what we do have. And it came to us 5 Sundays ago. The Spirit. Christ died and was resurrected and ascended to send the Spirit to us. And it has been working through us. We see it in our communities. We see it in our churches. We see it in parts of the world that we don't even live near. Faith can be lost temporarily after something traumatic, especially. And that's just how we interact in the world. It's not a good thing, but it's a very real thing. God is just beyond our understanding. But God has sent the Spirit, and we know that some days we are closer to that Spirit, and some days we are farther. So know that this miracle that we've talked about, this healing of Jairus' daughter, is just a glimpse of reality that is yet to come. When our loved ones die, I think of it as they are seeing a reality, they're one step closer to that reality that is coming to all of us. Not just death, but being united with Christ, the true reality. Our job as the living is to share this faith. Our job is to have faith, no matter if it dwindles or if it flares. Paul tells us of a new body that we will have and a new earth that we will be on. This is an eschatological glimpse that very few people have seen. But the hemorrhaging woman saw it, and the daughter saw that. We often see something similar in the remembrance of our baptisms or in the communion elements. We see it when community needs are met, like what we hear in our 2 Corinthians passage. We hear it in anonymous letters of support for us, sometimes in unexplainable feelings of comfort. Have faith that the same God who wrote the Psalms, who wrote this helped David write this Song of Lamentation, this same God who was working through rambunctious Peter, the same God who was working through the persecutor of the church, who turned into one of the first leaders, Christian leaders, Paul. The same God who was with the church fathers and mothers, with Augustine and Benedict and Hildegard. The same God who was with the reformer, Martin Luther, who nearly lost his life a couple of times. The same God as our church patron, John Wesley. The same God as that firm believer, even in the face of doubt, Mother Teresa. That is the God who loves you and who has made you for a time and place such as this. No matter if we understand it or not, no matter if we lose our faith and find our way back, we must hold hope and hold on to faith that Christ is who he says he is. Do not fear, Jairus, only believe. So with that, my phone is on its last legs. I will get going, but I think it's very important that we acknowledge that our faith has ups and downs, and we can pray for miracles, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what will happen. I think we know that pretty well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we are in the wrong place and time. It just means that we have a different means of God that works through us, and that's the Holy Spirit, and we're ever so thankful for that. So be well. I will see you in another video. Bye.